Welcome to Follow Your Joy podcast, where intuition is the doorway to your wisdom, your genius, and your joy. I'm your host, Marla Diane, and I've been transforming creative entrepreneurs' lives for over 26 years through two businesses as a success coach and business strategist, and prior to that, an entertainment publicist and talent manager. It's time to make joy your inner GPS for life and business decisions, rather than lean on your logic and your reason first. You'll not only be following what is most authentic to you and for you, but you will live the beautiful life meant just for you. You'll come to learn that following your joy is a life and a business strategy. So listen in for inspiring entrepreneurial stories and solo casts that illuminate listening to your intuition is certainly the doorway to your wisdom, your genius, and your joy. Not sure how to access, use, or trust your intuition? Join me in the conversation to find out how. Here we are. At the time of the recording, we here in the United States are going into the July 4th holiday weekend. Those of you, I hope you have and or had fun in a safe holiday. I'm also, this is so cool, I am celebrating my 1 month anniversary of my podcast. Yay! Yeah, started at June 1st and it's now July 1st, the time of this recording. So super grateful. It's really coming along beautifully. And, I'm feeling like right in the slot. I'm in my zone of genius. Love this, especially having a background of journalism and writing and, publicity and all that stuff. It feels so good. I'm delighted to bring my guest on to have her share with you her compelling entrepreneurial journey and how she listened to her intuition, followed her joy, and came out on the other end with two transformational educational platforms. One called Leadership Purpose and the other, which is her newest creation, Creating Masterful Courses. But before I formally introduce her, this episode is sponsored by the Zen of Abundance and Prosperity, a 90-day hybrid summertime experience. Because now more than ever in this century, ladies, do we aspire for us women to achieve their long-held desires and dreams and stop settling for less than what we want. Application submission time is coming to a close on July 8th. If you have been sitting on the fence about the Zen of Abundance and Prosperity, I encourage you to ask yourself, am I willing to explore the possibility of being mentored to finally manifest my long-held desires without the guilt or the holding back for a variety of reasons? Is it time to honor your worth and your desires? Because it's designed for 8 high-value creative women entrepreneurs who desire to be mentored, right? And how to collapse the time frame of achieving their long-held desires by mastering the power of energy and your intuition, use proven tools of manifesting, redefine those money rules and beliefs, and live by the mindset of miraculous, which allows your desires and your goals to happen in a much shorter time frame. I will have the application page link in the show notes that will take you to all the details. And by filling out the application, you will qualify for a 30-minute one-on-one call with me to discuss your dreams and desires and if this is a fit for you or not. So I look forward to reading your submission. And again, application time closes on July 8th. Let's bring Dr. Robin Owens on. I thank you for joining us. Welcome to Follow Your Joy podcast.
So good to be here. Thank you, Marla.
Absolutely. So everyone, Robin is the founder and CEO of Masterful Course Creations. She is also a speaker, author, and a college professor. Outside of the classroom, she helps speakers and trainers and consultants turn their books into masterful courses. She's also the host of her popular podcast, Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin, where she interviews experts who give helpful advice and tools and tips for high achieving, what she calls purpose-minded women who have written nonfiction books and want to amplify their message beyond the book. She is the author of her own upcoming book, Purpose-Based Decisions, an inspirational guide to more meaning and purpose. Man, that sounds wow. That's great. So before we launch into our conversation, I want to share with everyone, Robin, how we met, which was actually just this year, right? When my booking agency booked me on your podcast. I was a guest on Robin's podcast. And since we live so close by here in the Los Angeles area, we became fast friends. And we spent some fun days kind of going to lunch and doing some outings. We even went to Italy in Century City. Remember that?
So much fun.
Oh my gosh, it's anyone that's been to any one of the Italys. I know there's one in New York. I know there's one obviously here, but they originated out in Italy. Oh my God, there's so much fun, this Italian marketplace. So let's hear your inspiring stories. So tell us the work that you do and briefly, why did you choose to be a college professor? And that led to Leadership Purpose, that then led to Masterful Course Creations.
Briefly, that
Yeah,
just summarized about 2 decades.
I know, right? You got an extra hour on that podcast.
Right. So I'll start with the college professor, because I think that was the part of it you asked first. Okay. And so, since I was a little girl, I don't know if it was the same with you or the people who are listening. When you were young, you're like in elementary school and they say, what do you want to do when you grow up? I never understood why they asked that question, because who knows, right? But I distinctly remember sitting at the kitchen table and my mother sitting down with me in my first grade self. And she says to me that very question, what do you want to do when you grow up? Or she probably said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to be a teacher. And it was so emphatic. I was just certain I want to be a teacher. And she said, okay, like it was almost like a business meeting. She says, okay, well, you have to go to college. And we kind of had a plan right there in first grade. I remember sitting at the table and she had her cup of tea and I just felt like it was a grown-up conversation. So I decided very early that I wanted to be a teacher. But like many other journeys and paths, by the time I got to high school, I had completely forgotten about that. And so when it was time to think about going to college, I had in my mind, I don't know what to do. So I asked her once again, I went to my mother and said, what do you think I should major in college? And she said, major in business. Apparently she forgot that conversation too. She said, major in business, because with business, you'll always have a job. And so I majored in business.
Very good.
And that led me on to, of course, a job in business. I was in a leadership role in a bank for years. And I realized it was not fulfilling. Nothing about it. Now, there's nothing wrong with banking. We need banking, right? I'm grateful for it. But for me, with my personality and the way I live and move in life, it was just constricting. It was against everything who I was. And I just didn't know. I still hadn't remembered this idea of wanting to be a teacher. I didn't know what to do. I just thought, it's not this. So I had gotten to the point where I couldn't take it anymore. And I just said, the one thing I do know, I want to do work that's fulfilling to me. And if it's fulfilling to me, the only way it'll be fulfilling to me is that I know that I'm making a difference.
Nice.
I'm sure, helping people with their finances is making a difference, but it didn't feel meaningful to me.
Yeah.
So I set out on a path, on a quest to find work that made a difference.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I said when I left the position. When I gave my letter of resignation while you're leaving, I said, I'm leaving to make a difference in other people's lives.
The banker's kind of, what? Right? It's like, it's okay.
Like,
Watch me and we'll catch up together. Yeah. Well,
right.
I mean, it's so crucial. I mean, this is not anything new to anyone as far as this type of conversation, which is, it's okay that was not suitable to you. It's fine. Of course, we all need banking, but that doesn't mean you need to do it.
Yes.
It's like you weren't put on this planet to do that.
Yes.
And that was great clarity for you to really honor, which we'll be getting into in just a few minutes, following your joy, following your intuition.
Yes. Yes, you're absolutely right. And at that time, I was just out of college. And to have I had 15 or 20 people reporting to me who were older than me because I was just out of college. And so my family and friends thought, well, that's a good job. You don't leave those kinds of positions because, they thought very highly of it. And it was a very established bank in the town. So yes, to your point, sometimes it's just not enough. The outside things are just not enough.
Absolutely, it's not enough. But what's most important is, again, it's what you're meant to do. And listening, because whether you realized it back then or not, your intuition was saying, yeah, you're not meant to do this. Follow that. And follow the joy, follow those, right? That path. And it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks.
You're right. Because in the end, in that case, for me and for those of us, it's for us. We have to be guided by who we are, not who others think we are.
Yeah. That's absolutely correct. And it's always of good advice. I mean, what you just said, of course, especially our family and our friends and all that. And we appreciate that support. But it all comes from what? Logic. It all comes from reasoning and logic. And sorry, that doesn't belong here.
Yes.
In this case, and then obviously the premise to my podcast is that, yes, when you follow, right, that intuition, it's meant for you and your evolution.
Yes.
Not theirs, yours.
Yes.
Right. And you got to lovingly go, I love you. Thank you so much. But yeah, not my thing.
Right. You're absolutely right. And that's what I did. It was a bit of a struggle because, I didn't want to kind of go against what, the people I love, but I had to do what was best for me. And so I said to you, you mentioned it was like a couple decades, right? This journey. So that set me on the path to find it. Beautiful. So fast forward, I went through two more kind of career changes, still with that goal in mind, make a difference in other people's lives.
Yeah.
And I did it at particular junctures in particular ways, but still not quite fully satisfying all who I was until, so I just now fast forwarded us all up to about 25 years until it occurred to me. I don't know how I remembered that teaching was a joy that I had when I was a little girl, and I had little opportunities here and there to do a workshop or do something at the church or in the community. And I was like, yes, teaching is what I want to do. Yeah. So I went back to grad school and got the PhD and went on to teach in a university.
Very, very good. Okay. Wonderful. So this then leads to, and you can, this will be the next part of your story, what brings you the most joy in the work that you do? And you have a business besides being a, college professor. What brings you the most joy about making a difference?
Yes. And I love this question. And I love the premise of the podcast, of course, because it's mine too, like joy, follow your joy. And for me, when I just mentioned about those 20 years, I noticed along the way, there were certain things that were missing. For example, the early position after the bank, I was making a difference in a way that met those things that were important to me. which was, for here's an example, serving others, right? Making a difference meant serving others. And I was doing that, but it still wasn't quite all of me. All right. So there was my values were in there and the service was in there, some passion, but not fully. And so along the way, I discovered at different points, oh, this has this piece of that's what's important to me. I have the making a difference piece, but either the passion is missing or this use of my own natural abilities that might be missing. So I figured it out along the way. So by the time I was then now into teaching, I knew I had the formula, which is how I found the teaching position that was right for me. I had the formula. I said, for me, I need values, those things that really matter to me. I need to use my natural abilities, which teaching was one of them. I also need passion for the work I'm doing and this sense of service where I'm making a difference. So it's a combination of all four of those. I realized this is what I need.
That's fabulous. It's very intentional.
Well, over 20 years.
Yeah.
Trial and error. Yeah.
I mean, fabulous. Yes. And you're right. Behind the scenes, it's like, yeah, it was as they say, it was an overnight success. It took 25 years,
Yes.
Yeah, fabulous. It was, but regardless, it was very intentional, that you wanted the values, the natural abilities, the passion, the sense of service, that became your platform, that became obviously that intention that you manifested into this physical form.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And I feel solid after that journey and finding it. Now I know how to do that and create it in my life.
Nice.
Yes.
Very, very good. Okay. So, all right. So share then, this is, my favorite part of the interview podcast is the sharing of your intuitive story. In other words, when you followed your intuition, which I think we've kind of been leading to that, when you followed your intuition, that led to a joyful, fulfilling result. Right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. All right. So when we left off at the story, I'm teaching in the university. And while I was teaching in the university, feeling strong in this commitment that I just mentioned to you and how I created this formula, even though I didn't call it a formula, but basically it was a formula that was guiding my life and feeling pretty good. But as life does, as we live, there's a sense of more. As we learn and grow, at least for me, as I learn and grow and develop, it's almost like life is calling me for something else. And so knowing that I created that formula, I thought, oh, it's a good time maybe to share that with others. I can do that. Write it in a book, right? And share that with others. So it was kind of like on my back burner. Yes, I'm going to do that. I'm going to share it with others in a book and I'm going to do it. However, I had this full-time job that was very full, a full-time job, takes a lot of mental capacity. So the book was always in the back of my mind. And then my brother was diagnosed with cancer in the spring of 2018, pancreatic cancer. And by the fall, he was gone.
Oh, no.
And it was just painful to see him go through that, like it would be for anybody who experienced that.
Yeah.
Even though he was he was still just graceful. He never complained. He still was trying to enjoy what he could with life. And I thought, wow, it just amazed me how he could be so graceful through that process. So after he passed in the fall and after the funeral and after that immediate grief, I was thinking about how he loved life so much and he enjoyed his wife and he enjoyed his friends. They had community night where they had games and stuff like that. I'm like, he enjoyed his life. And as it happens often when you have a tragedy or I have a tragedy, it makes you think about your own life. And I said, let me think about my life and what I'm doing. And so it brought me back to, you've been talking about this book you said you're going to write this book. And I know this is me telling myself, I know you have a full job, but still the book is there and it's still waiting to be brought forth. So I said, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to jump in, make a commitment to my life. He doesn't have his life here anymore, but I have mine. And I'm going to make a renewed commitment to my life, to my joy, and to my purpose. And so I set forth to say, all right, I'm going to find somebody to help me because I'm in the academic world. Let me find someone to help me in the business world to now create this book and to bring this message to the world. So I find, as it happens, I found a business coach and we worked together and he was the right one for me. We worked together that was 2019 now, we're in 2019. It's like, okay, I'm putting the book together. When the book is done, I will then create this business around it. And we're kind of setting the foundation for that. And then 2020 came and we all remember 2020. Which again, reevaluating what's going on, where am I in this process, how am I doing? And I felt good. I was making progress little by little on the book, still having the job. And so I didn't, oftentimes we beat ourselves up if we don't stay with our goals and how we set a time frame for things. But I was just kind of plugging along and creating the foundations of the business and starting to do coaching and mentoring and loving that. And then it taught some courses all around this finding purpose in that 4-part formula that I mentioned already. Mm-hmm. And 2020, when we had time to sit and be still and experience what I considered somewhat of a sacred pause for those of us who were healthy and well and still working and able to do that. Mm-hmm. And I thought to myself, yeah, I don't think this is really what I thought it was going to be. This coaching around this work is not as soul satisfying as I thought it would be. I was doing it because I made that commitment. I'm going to live my life. I have the coach. I'm going to do it. But something wasn't right about it. It just was not fulfilling. But I wouldn't have known it if I didn't do it. Right. So I thought, bring myself back to what I love, focus on aspects of it, which is, you mentioned the podcast. I created the podcast during that time and said, that's something I know, a piece of it that I know for sure I can get the message out that way because I enjoy that. But there was just something missing about it. And I said, I'm stuck here. What's going on? I created the formula. I know how to do this, but there's something missing. There's something that I'm just not quite doing. Let me spend some time. Stop doing, pause, be quiet, just spend some time in quiet, do the things that I know that nurtures me. For me is quiet and meditation and taking care of myself, and ask the question, what's the next right thing for me? And almost like magic, which you would say it's your intuition, it came to me. Oh my goodness, take what you love doing from the university and use that in your business. That was one thing that you're talking about, your natural abilities was teaching and preparing classes. I love that. I can do it all day and all night, right? The thing I love most about it, take that and turn that into your business. And voila, just like that, new business was born.
Amazing. Amazing how that works. Amazing how when you get quiet enough, right? You get quiet enough. And I love how your expression is, a sacred pause. It's a fabulous expression for being in your intuition. Get quiet enough. Like you said, you stop the doing, everybody. Right? This is your intuition. You can't hear it. You can't feel it if you're in that doing mode. Right?
Yes.
And so beautiful example of really being intentional with your intuition and asking those questions. Exactly what you need to do is something's missing here. Why do I not feel it in my soul that this is what's going on?
Yes.
And if Robin is everybody, she's giving you really the perfect way to just get the answers. And they do, like for you, Robin, they do come that quick.
They do.
When you open the channel and you stop the busyness and so forth. And I know some of you are fabulous about your, intuition. And so this is a validation of what you're already doing. But, even take it up a notch, is what I'm encouraging you. So wonderful. A sacred pause. That's going to be my new word for you. Beautiful. Oh my gosh, I love this. So now based on, your own transformations, your expertise, your experience, give that, tip of advice to, our high achieving creative entrepreneurs that are listening. What would that be?
Yeah. Yes, it would be what I learned as you heard throughout my journey, what I learned and mentioned early on about those four parts of how to move forward with myself. Values, passions, natural abilities, service has been my guide, right? And that would be my tip, my helpful hint. Because as high achieving women, we're achieving. And once we achieve, there's a sense of accomplishment. And so once you achieve and you move from one level, and it could be either big or small. When I say move forward, it could be big or small, your achievement, accomplishment. But I feel life has a way of always moving us forward, calling us forward more and more. And many of us already know how to pause and listen to our intuition. But I would encourage ongoing listening for those times when it's time to move again, in big ways or small ways. And when you get to that point, my tip would be to make purpose-based decisions. That's what I'm calling the process that I learned all those years of looking at your values, your passions, your natural abilities, and your ability to serve others. It's almost like a checklist, because sometimes it's in it's in the back of our mind, the thing that, like, is this the thing I should do? Is that, and just go through. And when all those are included, you're bringing the best of who you are into the work. You're in your purpose.
Fabulous.
So those are purpose-based decisions. So I encourage everybody to make purpose-based decisions.
Great. And in my world, that's the zone of genius. I mean, what you just defined is essentially you found and again defined your zone of genius. Because when I'm coaching this to my clients, that's what we're looking for is, what comes most natural to you, what brings you the most joy, what can literally create your highest income while you're in your joy, right? And so there's all these parts of the checklist of being in your zone of genius. You identified four of them. You have several more, but those are the four main ones that you call your purpose-based kind of formula. Love it.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Definitely. I call it making purpose-based decisions.
That's it. Zone of genius, everybody. So, okay, good. All right. So, Robin, before we, sign off here, where can people get in touch with you if they want to know more? And what are you offering? Is there something that somebody can jump into with you?
Yes, when that moment of discovery of making that purpose-based decisions to create that business around those things that, as you call, zone of genius, my zone of genius, and creating courses, but not only creating courses, but turning books into what I call masterful courses. And within the masterful courses, there's the mastery system that I created, took from my experience in the university. And so when I did that, I now put together a free, which I'm offering to everybody who's listening, a free 4-part training on how to turn your book into a masterful course.
Okay.
And without the overwhelm and confusion and without getting stuck in, it's just going to take forever. So that 4-part training is actually called How to Turn Your Book into a Masterful Course. How to turn your book into a masterful course so you can have more income and more impact. Right. And you can find it on my website, createmasterfulcourses.com. createmasterfulcourses.com. And it's a free 4-part training you can find there.
And we'll have that obviously in the show notes, everybody. So wonderful. Create masterful courses. And it's all
Yes.
around the
Turning
book.
turning your books, if you've written a book or a contributor to a book, how to turn that into more impact, make a bigger difference, amplify your message, and more income.
There it is. You heard it from her. Okay, wonderful. Terrific. And following you on Instagram?
LinkedIn is the place I hang out the most.
Okay.
LinkedIn. I'm LinkedIn at Robin L. Owens, PhD. Robin L. Owens, PhD.
Okay, there you go.
You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at that same handle, but my preferred hangout is LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Very, very good. Robin, thank you so much. Yep. Loved hanging out with you, and continue to see you evolve and grow. It's really terrific.
Thank you, Marla. And I love what you're doing and the joy that you're spreading and the amazing work that you're doing. Thank you for having me as a guest on your show. I feel honored.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right, everyone, remember to follow your joy, and I'll see you in the next episode. Wasn't that an inspiring conversation? Hey, thanks for listening in. You can find more entrepreneurial stories and resources at marladiane.com. And while you're there, enjoy my 3 free downloads to up-level your business and your life. And how about you take a screenshot of this episode and tag me on Instagram by sharing your highlights of what you learned today. I'd love that. I also have for you my private Italian-inspired Facebook group, The New Renaissance Woman for Creatives and High Achievers. Just request to join and we'll let you in. Until next episode, take care.